Hello, my name is Logan Cox, and this presentation is for Japan. As is shown on the slide you see in front of you, at the very least its flag. Now, I know you've probably seen a lot of videos by the time you've gotten to mine, or maybe I'm the first one you chose, but I did try my best to make this presentation, at the very least, entertaining to watch. So, let's begin. Now, before I get into any details, let me give a quick introduction to Japan. Japan is a collection of islands, 4 main islands, and 2,000 smaller islands, with its primary exports being consumer electronics, semiconductors, iron, steel, and computers, which aren't listed on the exports. Keep those in mind. I'll be coming back to those. Its population is around 127 million, but most of that population lives in scattered plains and intermontane basins, and these only represent 27% of the country. The remaining 73% is mountainous. Now, look at the exports again. We all know electronics do not grow on trees, and semiconductors require very precise machinery. These all require energy. So this asks the big question: where does that energy come from? The slide shows information taken from the IEA website and Japan's various energy production. Production meaning from the source on the left, how many units are created for electricity and heat. We'll be focusing on electricity for this. Take a look here and here. Coal, oil, and gas are easily the top 3 energy producers in Japan. Now, let's look at something rather interesting. I took the liberty of doing some basic math, adding these 3 together to get this number, and subtracting it from total production to give a final number shown here. The remaining number is less than 15% of all energy produced from the remaining sources. Why did I highlight this to you? I'll show you in the next slide. This here is what I wanted to show you for the last slide, but I didn't have the room for. Look at these 3 tables for gas, coal, and oil. These tables, also from the IEA website, are shrunk to focus on specifics. Look closer at the import and export part that I have highlighted with the red circles. These red circles highlight a major problem in Japan. Japan barely produces any of their own fuel. They don't produce any coal, their oil production is minimal, and while they do produce natural gas, they import much more. Also note there's absolutely no exporting of these fuels. All of it is used in some fashion, except for that -3 in bituminous coal, which I can only assume was a sales return of some kind. This information here is critical as we recall that their exports are consumer electronics and semiconductors, which are crafted inside factories. They also export copper, iron, and steel. And we all know steel requires a forging process, which requires a lot of heat to melt the iron, electricity to add new materials for machinery, and cool the steel to its final form, be it car steel or electric steel or just steel. With the exports in mind, this leads me to the final part of my presentation, which is the question: where are they going to go with all their energy deficiency? This slide here, the where to slide, used to be longer, but since it's mostly my opinion on where I think they're going with their energy, them being Japan, I decided to give the short version. The short version being, I think that Japan will be going with nuclear energy. The reason I think nuclear energy is the best way to go for Japan is simply because you get more bang for your buck, quote unquote. I make this statement full well knowing the disaster at Fukushima, and I believe that it was merely a setback caused by the fact the first reactor was from 1977, built only 2 years after the Chernobyl reactors. This means that both technology and safety features were similar, and the new reactors will have better tech and better safety features than the one that nearly melted down in Fukushima. And that's it. This concludes my presentation. This slide only includes my sources and a little disclaimer that I didn't make a single picture. I will also leave you all with a fun little fact. My opening slide was the Japanese flag. I'm sure you all knew that. But look closer, and it's just a white background with a red circle in the center. Therefore, making it probably the easiest introduction slide I've ever made. With that, that concludes my presentation. And I wish I had a better closure. Hello, my name is Logan Cox.